In 1501, a 14-year-old boy with fiery red hair stood before the gates of Tabriz. This was Ismail, leader of the Qizilbash, warriors devoted to him as both king and messiah. Against all odds, Ismail's small force had just defeated a much larger army, opening the gates to a new era. Ismail's childhood was spent in hiding, his family hunted and killed, but his lineage, part Sufi mystic, part descendant of the prophet, gave him an aura of destiny. His followers saw him as divinely chosen, a restorer of justice. As he entered Tabriz and was crowned Shah, Ismail made a radical declaration: Twelver Shi'ism would be the official religion of his new empire. This bold move set him against his Sunni neighbors, especially the powerful Ottomans. For Ismail, Shi'ism was non-negotiable. It was the foundation of a new Iranian identity. This act defined the Safavid dynasty and shaped Iran for centuries, drawing a permanent line between Persia and the Sunni world. The empire Ismail founded became a center of art, culture, and power, rivaling the Ottomans and Mughals. The Safavid story is how a teenager's vision, forged in secrecy and rebellion, rebuilt a nation. Ismail's revolution gave Iran the unique identity it carries to this day. The legend of the red-haired boy king marks the beginning of modern Iran. To grasp Ismail's achievement, we must see the world he inherited. 15th century Persia was fractured, a patchwork of warlords and tribal confederations, haunted by the Mongol and Timurid invasions. The memory of ancient empires lingered, but unity was lost. The Akoyunlu and Karakoyunlu, rival Turkic federations, fought for dominance, their rule tenuous and dependent on shifting tribal loyalties. For ordinary Persians, life was unstable, subject to the whims of whichever warlord held power. The idea of a unified Iran was more myth than reality, a shared language and culture, but no central authority. The land was desperate for a leader who could unite, not just conquer. Into this chaos, the Safavid movement emerged. Ismail would become the symbol and architect of a new unified Iran. He offered not just conquest, but a powerful new identity. The stage was set for revolution. The Safavids began not as kings, but as Sufi mystics in Ardabil. Founded by Sheikh Safi ad-Din, the Safaviya order attracted followers seeking spiritual enlightenment. For generations, the order was peaceful, spreading influence through piety and charity. But in the 15th century, under Sheikh Junaid and Sheikh Haidar, the Safaviya transformed, becoming militant and political. Their radical Shi'ism appealed to Turkoman tribes, who became the Qizilbash, fanatical warriors devoted to the Safavid cause. The Qizilbash believed their leaders were divine, and dying for them meant paradise. This shift alarmed the region's rulers. The Safavids were now contenders for power. The Akkoyunlu, once allies, turned on them, killing Haidar and hunting his family. Young Ismail went into hiding, but the Qizilbash waited for his return. The seeds of revolution had been sown. The Safavids were no longer just mystics, they were a revolutionary force. Their transformation from spiritual order to militant movement set the stage for empire. Ismail would soon emerge from hiding to claim his destiny. The Qizilbash were ready to follow him to the throne. The age of mystics was over. The age of monarchs had begun. Ismail's early reign was marked by rapid conquest and religious transformation. He expanded his empire across Iran, Armenia, and Iraq, seeming unstoppable. But his forced conversion of Iran to Shi'ism provoked the Sunni Ottoman Empire. Sultan Selim the Grim saw Ismail as a threat and marched east with a modern gunpowder army. In 1514, the two empires clashed at Chaldiran. The Qizilbash cavalry, fearless but outmatched, were decimated by Ottoman artillery and muskets. Ismail was wounded and barely escaped. The Safavid army was shattered. The defeat broke Ismail's aura of invincibility and forced him to retreat from military command. Chaldiran set the boundaries between the Ottomans and Safavids for centuries. The Safavid state had to evolve. Charisma and cavalry were no longer enough. Survival now depended on bureaucracy, reform, and adaptation. The age of messianic kingship was over. A new kind of state was needed. After Chaldiran, the Safavid state faced internal strife and external threats. Shah Tahmasp survived civil war and learned to balance tribal factions, but the real golden age began with Shah Abbas the Great. Abbas inherited a crisis: Ottomans in the west, Uzbeks in the east, and unruly Qizilbash at home. His solution was revolutionary. He broke Qizilbash power by creating a new army of ghulams, Christian boys from the Caucasus, loyal only to the Shah. Armed with muskets and artillery, the ghulams formed a modern, standing army. Abbas centralized the state, retook lost territories, and defeated the Uzbeks. He forged diplomatic ties with Europe, seeking allies against the Ottomans. Abbas was also a builder and reformer, fostering trade, roads, and urban beauty. Under his rule, the Safavid state became a powerful, centralized empire. Abbas's reforms transformed Persia into one of the great powers of the Islamic world. The fragile tribal kingdom became a modern state. The Safavid Golden Age was forged in steel, strategy, and vision. Abbas the Great secured the legacy of the dynasty. In 1598, Shah Abbas moved the capital to Isfahan, transforming it into a symbol of Safavid power. Isfahan's Nakhche-Jahan Square became the heart of the empire, a masterpiece of urban design. Surrounded by the Shah Mosque, Sheikh Lutfollah Mosque, Ali Kapu Palace, and the Grand Bazaar, the square was a stage for royal spectacle and daily life. Isfahan blossomed into a cosmopolitan hub on the Silk Road, attracting merchants and artisans from across the world. Armenian Christians built their own cathedral. European and Asian traders filled the bazaars. The city's architecture, art, and diversity reflected the wealth and stability of the Safavid Golden Age. Isfahan was more than a capital. It was a statement of imperial ambition. The proverb, "Isfahan is half the world," captured its grandeur. Under Abbas, the city became the physical embodiment of Safavid achievement. The glory of Isfahan endures as a testament to the era's brilliance. Safavid Iran's greatness was woven from art, culture, and innovation. The royal workshops produced masterpieces, lavishly illustrated manuscripts, and exquisite carpets. The Ardabil carpet, with its millions of knots, remains a marvel of Persian craftsmanship. Women in the royal court wielded influence behind the scenes, shaping politics and patronizing the arts. The Safavid era saw a flourishing of Shia theology and philosophy. The state's adoption of Shi'ism led to the rise of a powerful clerical class. Scholars from across the Islamic world established seminaries and shaped religious law. Thinkers like Mullah Sadra blended mysticism and logic, creating enduring philosophical schools. The Safavid legacy is not just military or political, it is cultural, intellectual, and artistic. Their achievements continue to define Persian identity. After Shah Abbas the Great, the Safavid dynasty began a slow decline. His successors lacked his vision and strength, preferring palace life to leadership. The centralized state Abbas built began to unravel. The Ghulam core became just another faction. Trade routes shifted as Europeans found new sea paths, draining Safavid wealth. The military stagnated, falling behind rivals. The empire coasted on past glory, hollow at its core. Under Shah Sultan Hussein, indecision and religious persecution fueled unrest, especially among Sunni Afghans. In 1722, Afghan tribes led by Mir Mahmud Hotak besieged Isfahan. The once mighty Safavid army collapsed. The capital fell after months of starvation. Shah Sultan Hussein abdicated, ending over 2 centuries of Safavid rule. The empire's fall was swift and brutal, a magnificent shell, rotten within. The Safavid era ended in humiliation and collapse, yet its legacy would endure. Though the Safavid state fell, its legacy shapes Iran to this day. By making Twelver Shi'ism the state religion, the Safavids forged a unique Iranian identity. Iran remains the world's largest Shia majority nation, its culture and politics defined by this choice. The powerful clerical establishment has roots in the Safavid era. The dynasty revived the idea of Iran as a distinct political and cultural entity, drawing borders and traditions that persist. Persian art, architecture, and literature flourished under their patronage. The Safavids showed that national identity can be consciously built through faith, culture, and vision. Their story is a lesson in how nations are made and remembered. The Safavid spirit, piety, power, and poetry remains woven into Iran's fabric. The story they began over 5 centuries ago is still being written today.